Imagine traveling back over 3 millennia. For more than 3,000 years, the magnificent golden mask of Pharaoh Tutankhamun lay hidden within the silent Valley of the Kings. This stunning artifact, standing approximately 21 inches tall, is a testament to the extraordinary skill and artistry of the ancient Egyptians. But little did anyone suspect that X-rays would eventually reveal its most profound secret. Tutankhamun, often referred to as King Tut, was the last of his royal line during the 18th dynasty. Ascending to the throne at the remarkably young age of 9, he ruled for a mere decade before his untimely death. In the grand tapestry of ancient Egyptian history, Tutankhamun was, frankly, largely forgotten by the pharaohs who followed him. His tomb was not deemed particularly significant, so much so that even grave robbers overlooked it. While this might seem a somber fate, it proved to be incredibly fortunate for us. Because his tomb was essentially lost to time, it remained remarkably preserved. Unlike the other tombs in the Valley of the Kings, which were plundered and desecrated, Tutankhamun's tomb remained sealed and untouched. Thus, its discovery in 1922 was a monumental event, yielding over 5,000 priceless objects. This instantly catapulted Tutankhamun to global fame, establishing him as one of the most recognizable pharaohs in modern times. Among these treasures, the most breathtaking was undoubtedly his golden mask. This mask was believed to be a true likeness of the king's face, or at least it was intended to be. But there's more to this story. The purpose of this accurate representation was deeply rooted in ancient Egyptian beliefs. It was meant to ensure that Tutankhamun's soul would recognize him in the afterlife and return to his mummified body, allowing him to continue his existence in the eternal realm. The intricate details of the mask suggested an incredibly challenging creation process. However, the true complexity of its construction remained hidden for many years. The first X-rays of the mask were taken in 1967. At the time, the primary motivation for these scans was practical conservation. The mask was scheduled to travel to Paris for an exhibition, marking its first departure from Egypt. These X-rays would help monitor any changes during the exhibition, and the images could offer clues about the mask's creation. However, the full extent of its complexity was likely not fully appreciated then. Consider this. Egyptian goldsmiths did not have access to modern soldering techniques. How, then, did they craft this masterpiece? New X-rays taken in 2007 began to provide some answers. It was revealed that the Egyptians did not use pure 24-karat gold. Instead, the mask was crafted from 23-karat gold, indicating that it was alloyed with another material. Specialists discovered that the gold sheets contained a small amount of copper, a reddish-brown metal. This was likely added to enhance the material's flexibility and make it easier to shape. The goldsmiths would then meticulously shape the gold sheets by repeatedly heating and hammering them. But the mask held yet another secret, one that remained hidden until 2015. In the year prior, staff at Cairo's Egyptian Museum were working on the mask's display when the long beard of the mask was accidentally knocked off. Another theory suggests that the beard had simply become loose over time and detached. Regardless of the cause, the separation of King Tut's beard triggered considerable alarm. After all, this was one of Cairo's most prominent tourist attractions. The experts needed to rectify the situation swiftly. The restoration process commenced with a meticulous recording of the mask's condition. This required a comprehensive, three-dimensional scan of the artifact. And during this process, they stumbled upon something remarkable within the royal beard: a gold tube. This intriguing structure was likely used by the Egyptians to attach the beard to the rest of the mask. This discovery further underscored the fact that the creation of this mask was even more intricate than previously imagined. But the mysteries surrounding Tutankhamun's mask do not end there. Recall the belief that the mask was a perfect representation of King Tutankhamun's face? Well, that might not be entirely accurate. A popular theory suggests that the mask was never intended for him at all, and was originally crafted for someone else. A study published in 2015 proposed that the mask was initially made for a female pharaoh, possibly his stepmother, the renowned and beautiful Egyptian queen Nefertiti. The most compelling evidence comes from an inscription on the mask. At first glance, it appeared to belong to Tutankhamun. However, upon closer examination, researchers noticed that something else was inscribed beneath King Tut's name. The original name stamp seemed to have been altered, and it originally bore an inscription that translates to Queen Nefertiti. Furthermore, another feature of King Tut's golden mask has been overlooked for years, adding even more layers of mystery. As mentioned earlier, experts believe that he was not held in high regard by the pharaohs who succeeded him. One of the clues supporting this theory is the presence of pierced ears on the mask. Some researchers believe that King Tutankhamun— imagine a monumental construction site thousands of years in the past. Here, amidst the dust and sweat, a puzzle unfolds. How did the ancient Egyptians lift massive stones to build their colossal pyramids? Picture this: a vast hole dug deep into the earth, within which sits a colossal wooden platform, resembling a gigantic raft. This ingenious device could be raised and lowered at will, a prehistoric elevator designed to hoist immense weights. The secret? Water. As water filled the cavity, the wooden platform would begin to rise, carrying its heavy stone cargo skyward. It ascended slowly but surely, a testament to the ingenuity of these ancient engineers. Once the stone reached the desired height, workers would carefully slide it off the platform and onto the growing pyramid structure. The concept is breathtaking in its simplicity. Water, drawn from a deep trench after being carefully cleaned and filtered, flowed into specially constructed shafts. A massive float, potentially crafted from sturdy wood, would then ascend as the water level increased, lifting the stones to the exact point they were needed for construction. Once the stone was secured in place, the water would be released, gently lowering the platform back to its starting position, ready for the next colossal stone. This elaborate hydraulic lift system could have revolutionized construction techniques, dramatically increasing speed and efficiency, while minimizing the required workforce. It's as if the ancient Egyptians had already grasped the concept of work smarter, not harder, millennia before the phrase was coined. However, not all scholars are convinced. Some argue that the region surrounding the step pyramid of Djoser simply couldn't provide enough water from sporadic rainfall to sustain such a sophisticated hydraulic system. Another theory proposes the existence of a nearby lake, replenished by seasonal rains, that could have provided a consistent water source for the complex's hydraulic operations. Yet, frustratingly, there is no mention of such a lake in any surviving ancient Egyptian texts. This tantalizing possibility remains a what-if scenario, a ghost of an idea, rather than a concrete reality. And then there's the sheer effort involved in constructing the hydraulic device itself. While it might have reduced the strain of lifting the stones, some experts contend that building the intricate system would have demanded even more backbreaking labor than simply moving the stone blocks using traditional manpower. Furthermore, let's not forget that the step pyramid of Djoser is relatively small compared to later pyramids. The stones used in its construction weighed approximately 660 pounds each, substantial but insignificant compared to the multi-ton blocks used in the pyramid of Khafra. If this captivating water lift theory is ultimately debunked, we must still unravel the mystery of how this magnificent pyramid was constructed in the first place. To find the answer, we must journey back in time and examine the original architectural plans. Initially, the intention was to build a simple mastaba, a common tomb structure in earlier periods. These were flat-roofed, rectangular edifices with sloping sides. However, after the initial mastaba was completed, the architects decided to expand upon it, adding layer upon layer. This process continued until the structure reached 6 distinct steps, each smaller than the one below. These colossal stones were likely raised into position using ramps, not a water-powered elevator. Much remains shrouded in mystery regarding the step pyramid of Djoser. Further investigation is undoubtedly needed to fully comprehend the construction techniques employed, or even to confirm the existence of the hydraulic system. Yet the mere possibility of using water to aid in the pyramid's construction adds a fascinating new dimension to our understanding of ancient Egyptian engineering. It serves as a potent reminder of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of these ancient builders, who harnessed the natural landscape and the power of water to create one of history's most iconic monuments. Now, Consider ancient ruins. Typically, we envision them grounded, firmly planted on the earth, not precariously suspended or hanging from a tree branch. In fact, the vast majority of ancient artifacts displayed in museums worldwide were unearthed through extensive archaeological excavations. Buildings, you see, have a tendency to vanish over time if not properly maintained. Sometimes building materials are repurposed, leading to the sacrifice of older structures. In other instances, buildings are simply abandoned, and once exposed to the ravages of the elements, rain, sunlight, and wind, they quickly succumb to erosion. Therefore, a piece of architecture can only endure the relentless march of time if it becomes buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. But how did these structures become buried in the first place? It's a fascinating tale of gradual accumulation. Ancient cities gradually raised their ground level over centuries, much like a child piling toppings onto an ice cream sundae. These settlements were constantly engaged in the collection of food and building materials to sustain their growing populations. However, waste disposal was often a low priority. Imagine a world where the very ground beneath our feet holds the secrets of forgotten civilizations. Back then, when it came to building new homes, these ancient people often chose the path of least resistance. Instead of clearing away the old, they simply piled up the rubble and constructed their new dwellings right on top. But that's not the whole story. Rivers, in their relentless flow, would occasionally flood, leaving behind a layer of sediment that gradually entombed these ancient constructions. And in the arid regions, where the wind danced with sand and dust, keeping settlements clean was a never-ending battle. A humorous example is the Great Sphinx of Giza, its head often buried in the shifting sands until archaeologists painstakingly unearthed it in 1817. Some ancient towns were eventually swallowed entirely, abandoned to the relentless march of time. With less human activity to control their spread, plant seeds seized the opportunity, sprouting and flourishing everywhere. They greedily consumed carbon dioxide from the air, adding bulk and mass to the ground. Their roots, like determined pioneers, stabilized the soil, creating layers upon layers of rich, earthy goodness. It's as if Mother Nature herself embarked on the ultimate DIY project, with plants as her ever-loyal assistants. Digging into the secrets of these ancient civilizations isn't just about unearthing a lost world. It's an epic quest to reveal the hidden treasures buried beneath layers of history. But how do archaeologists even begin to know where to dig when everything is concealed beneath sediments, debris, and a tangled web of plant roots? Surely they must have a system, a method to guide their explorations. Well, for starters, they aren't always the ones initiating an archaeological dig. Imagine you're a contractor, eager to build a new, luxurious apartment complex in your city. Local regulations often require you to conduct thorough site assessments before construction can begin. Specialists, such as archaeologists, geologists, or paleontologists, are brought in to examine the soil. These experts remain vigilant during development, and if any artifacts or ecofacts, a fancy term for organic remnants, are discovered, they swoop in to excavate and study them. But what about those sites far removed from bulldozers and hard hats? Archaeologists have a variety of tricks up their sleeves when it comes to locating ancient hotspots. They delve into historical records, becoming detectives of the past. By carefully examining old documents and maps, they piece together the puzzle of human activity in a specific area. If a site has been previously visited, it's even better. Finding records of past excavations or historical accounts can provide valuable clues, guiding archaeologists in their continued treasure hunt. Before archaeologists start swinging their shovels, they undertake a visual scan mission. Armed with a grid system, they meticulously survey the site, searching for any artifacts that might be hidden just beneath the surface. From ground stone tools to historic glass and even ancient garbage dumps, yes, even those are valuable. These keen-eyed explorers can spot signs of human activity faster than most. If they stumble upon midden soil, a fancy term for a garbage dump, they know for sure that humans once called this place home. But archaeologists don't rely solely on their trusty shovels. They possess an arsenal of gadgets to aid in their search for hidden wonders. Geophysical tools are like their secret weapons. Take the resistivity meter, for example. This clever contraption measures the electrical resistance of the soil, revealing any buried features or artifacts. A buried wall, for instance, will create a different resistivity reading than the surrounding soil. Magnetometers and ground-penetrating radar work in similar ways, showcasing potential hints of ancient treasures hidden beneath the surface. And who could forget our trusty old friend, the GPS? It helps archaeologists map out precise locations like a high-tech treasure map, leading them straight to their pot of gold. Care to virtually visit some of the most important archaeological sites in the world? Let's start in the United Kingdom. Here, you'll find a fascinating place called Stonehenge. It's one of many henges scattered around the region, but this one truly stands out. Imagine massive, ancient stones standing tall and proud, arranged in a distinctive outer ring and an inner horseshoe with some smaller stones thrown in for good measure. And guess what? These amazing stones have been around for over 5,000 years. That's a serious case of rock-solid longevity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. According to local folklore, imagine a time long ago when the legendary wizard Merlin, with a flick of his wrist and a flash of his wand, supposedly teleported colossal stones from the very heart of Ireland. Legend has it that giants had meticulously arranged these stones, but Merlin, with his discerning eye, decided they would be far more impressive gracing a new location. Of course, some believe a less magical, more practical explanation, that these are simply the weathered remnants of an ancient Roman temple. Regardless, these awe-inspiring structures were erected by our Bronze Age forebears. Using rudimentary tools and surprisingly sophisticated techniques, they managed to conjure this monumental masterpiece. Impressive, wouldn't you agree? Yet, despite all our modern advancements, a shroud of mystery still clings to Stonehenge. Its original purpose remains an enigma, debated by scholars and enthusiasts alike. Theories abound, but a definitive consensus remains elusive. What we do know is that it's meticulously aligned to capture the ethereal beauty of the sunrise during both the summer and winter solstices, a testament to the astronomical knowledge of its builders. Now, let us journey to another equally captivating archaeological marvel, the ancient city of Pompeii. Picture this. Mount Vesuvius, a volcano with a notorious reputation for mischief, unleashes its fury in a cataclysmic eruption, burying the entire Roman city in ash and pumice. This disaster, however, inadvertently transformed Pompeii into a remarkable time capsule, frozen in a moment of history. The city lies just outside modern-day Naples, Italy. Fast forward to 1748, when a band of intrepid explorers stumbled upon the lost city. What they unearthed was a treasure trove of remarkably preserved artifacts. Streets, houses, food, perhaps a tad stale after all these years. Gleaming jewelry, elaborate sculptures, vibrant frescoes, everyday household items, and even the haunting remains of animals and humans. It was an archaeological find of epic proportions. From what we can gather, Pompeii was a city that had it all. Opulent houses and villas lined its streets, alongside a massive 20,000-seat arena for entertainment. Quaint artisan shops offered their wares, while taverns provided lively social hubs. And let's not forget the more indulgent establishments like the luxurious bathhouses, perfect for some serious pampering and relaxation. The sanctuary of Apollo served as a focal point for religious life, while the bustling Forum of Pompeii was the city's vibrant heart, where citizens gathered to socialize and conduct business. Pompeii's historical significance is so profound that it earned a coveted spot on UNESCO's World Heritage List in 1997, an ultimate hall of fame for sites of historical and cultural importance. Other landmarks sharing this honor include the Taj Mahal in India and the Acropolis of Athens in Greece. Now, imagine yourself toiling away 7 days a week on an enormous construction site. You, along with thousands of others, are tasked with moving millions of stone blocks, carefully placing them atop one another, according to a complex and meticulously planned system. You're working without the benefit of modern construction equipment, without air conditioning to combat the scorching heat, and without constant access to refreshing water. The sun beats down mercilessly, hot enough to fry an egg on the dusty ground. You've dedicated decades of your life to this pyramid, and now, finally, it's complete. You stand back and admire the colossal work of thousands, a giant cultural monument of global significance that will stand the test of time, inspiring awe and wonder for millennia to come. A few thousand years pass. People in the 21st century gaze upon the pyramids and exclaim, "Wow, I can't believe humans built this." However, the people who built the pyramids might not fully appreciate such a simplified explanation. There are reasons to believe that the construction involved techniques far beyond simple brute force. From the outside, the Great Pyramids appeared to be nothing more than giant triangles of stone, heavy blocks stacked upon one another. But the design is almost too perfect, too precise to be believed. The pyramid consists of over 2 million blocks, fitted together so perfectly that you couldn't slip even the thinnest sheet of paper between them. Scientists still grapple with the exact technology used to build these Egyptian marvels. One of the largest and most celebrated is the Great Pyramid of Giza. This immense structure, renowned throughout the world, holds a secret. It was likely once capped with a pyramidion, a triangular-shaped stone block, essentially a small pyramid atop a massive one. The builders of ancient Egypt crafted these pyramidions from granite and limestone, and then lavishly covered them in gold. While no definitive records or ancient drawings confirm the existence of a pyramidion atop the Great Pyramid of Giza, another ancient Egyptian structure, the Red Pyramid, offers compelling evidence. The Red Pyramid, built before the Great Pyramid, still possesses its capstone, which archaeologists have recovered and reconstructed. So, where did the capstone of the Great Pyramid disappear to? This remains a mystery, a question that continues to elude definitive answers. Some speculate that thieves pilfered it from the summit, perhaps scaling the pyramid and dislodging the pyramidion. The capstone, gleaming with gold, would undoubtedly have been the most valuable element of the entire structure. Many scientists and archaeologists continue to debate its precise purpose. Some believe that this peak, adorned with gold, glorified the pharaoh. Imagine traveling back in time to ancient Egypt, where the Great Pyramids stand as testaments to human ingenuity and ambition. Picture the Pyramid of Giza, its apex crowned with a magnificent capstone. This capstone, crafted with precision, wasn't merely a finishing touch. It was a beacon. By night, moonlight danced upon its polished surface, casting an ethereal glow across the landscape. During the day, the sun's radiant energy blazed off its reflective face, making it visible from great distances, a guiding star for weary travelers lost in the vast desert. The pyramid's immense structure was built from precisely cut limestone blocks, each painstakingly polished to a mirror sheen. Imagine them as they were then, gleaming, almost otherworldly, reflecting the sun's rays with dazzling intensity. It's said that from space, these pyramids would have appeared as tiny, brilliant lights piercing the darkness. Millennia have passed, and the relentless forces of nature, howling winds, scouring sandstorms, and torrential rains, have weathered and altered the pyramid's once pristine facade. Had they been meticulously preserved, they might resemble the awe-inspiring structures we see in science fiction films or the extravagant pyramids of Las Vegas. Sadly, we can only imagine their original glory. Intriguing theories abound about the capstone's purpose. Some believe it acted as a sophisticated energy collector, absorbing solar power and distributing it evenly throughout the pyramid's interior. But to what end? Why did the pharaohs require such technology? One captivating theory suggests that the pyramids were, in fact, colossal energy systems harnessed by the pharaohs to power technologies far surpassing anything we possess in the 21st century. The pyramid's triangular form, according to this theory, was perfectly designed to amplify electromagnetic energy. Solar radiation, or other electromagnetic forces, would accumulate at the apex, flood the inner chambers, and then flow down the walls to the base. Any imperfection, any distortion on the surface could disrupt this flow. This explains the incredible precision with which the limestone blocks were fitted, so tightly that not even a needle or razor blade could be inserted between them. The choice of materials further supports this theory. Limestone, the primary building block, is known for its ability to store energy. Within the pyramid's inner chambers, Granite deposits were strategically placed to induce air ionization, creating an electrical charge. Channels were carved beneath the pyramid to conduct water, facilitating the transmission of electricity. And at the very top, the gold capstone, the ultimate conductor, completed the circuit. A colossal power generator, humming with unseen energy. Across the globe, other cultures may have employed similar technologies to generate electricity. These remain theories, however, tantalizing glimpses into a past shrouded in mystery. If such systems were truly functional, surely humanity would be using them today. Ancient records hint at advanced knowledge of metallurgy, chemistry, engineering, physics, mathematics, and astronomy. Yet most mainstream scientists remain skeptical. We possess a detailed understanding of technological development across various cultures. In the 21st century, historians, scientists, and anthropologists can meticulously trace the evolution of modern devices. Had ancient civilizations possessed such advanced technologies, the course of history would undoubtedly be profoundly different. Perhaps cataclysmic events erased all traces of these ancient achievements. Imagine future archaeologists unearthing a laptop 5,000 years from now. Would they comprehend its purpose? Would they grasp the intricacies of its design and function? Another enigmatic Egyptian wonder is the Sphinx. This colossal statue, hewn from a single block of limestone approximately 4,500 years ago, continues to baffle scientists. The exact date of its construction and the identity of its builders remain shrouded in mystery. Originally, the Sphinx was painted in vibrant colors, a far cry from the weathered beige we see today. Imagine it gleaming in the sunlight, its painted features bold and striking, a visual spectacle mirroring the grandeur of the Great Pyramids. Over time, both its appearance and its name have changed. The ancient Egyptians knew it as Hor-em-Akhet, meaning Horus of the Horizon. The Greeks, centuries later, renamed it the Sphinx. The Sphinx symbolized the power and majesty of Egypt's rulers. It also served as a symbolic guardian, a watchful sentinel protecting the pharaoh's tomb and the pathways leading to it. This interpretation seems plausible, given the numerous secret entrances discovered at the Sphinx's base. These hidden chambers and intricate tunnels may lead to vast underground halls filled with untold treasures. But treasures don't always equate to gold and jewels. Legend suggests that the Sphinx guards the Hall of Records, a repository of all human knowledge, including information about the mythical lost civilization of Atlantis. Detailed maps of the Sphinx's subterranean chambers, depicting structures extending 12 stories beneath the statue, circulate widely. These maps portray a hidden city, teeming with golden scrolls, ancient artifacts, and forgotten lore. However, these maps are largely speculative. Despite millennia of research and exploration, our understanding of the Sphinx remains limited. The mysteries surrounding this ancient monument continue to captivate and intrigue, beckoning us to unravel the secrets of a bygone era. Paleontologists are keenly aware that the Great Sphinx still holds many secrets, mysteries yet to be unraveled. Imagine beneath the sands of Egypt lie untold stories. However, local beliefs sometimes hinder exploration. Some fear that disturbing the ancient monument could awaken a slumbering power from the depths. Therefore, the primary researchers are international scientists, venturing where locals hesitate. Picture this. In 1998, a team of researchers unearthed a network of enigmatic tunnels leading to empty chambers deep beneath the Sphinx. It became evident that others had attempted to penetrate these subterranean passages long ago. Did they succeed in plundering the treasures that once resided there? Perhaps. Legend whispers of a potent artifact concealed beneath the Sphinx, a technology capable of reshaping the world. Yet local lore suggests it is deliberately hidden, its potential for planetary devastation deemed too great a risk. Some speculate that the granite walls of pharaohs' tombs are not merely adorned with myths, but contain detailed schematics of forgotten technologies. What if Egyptian symbols are not just stories, but instructions? Imagine that the ancients, anticipating a future energy crisis, left behind a guide for generations to come. The quest for answers is fraught with peril. Accessing the underground chambers is a hazardous undertaking. Excavations risk destabilizing the Sphinx's very structure. The labyrinthine tunnels could swallow explorers whole, leaving them lost forever. And, of course, such endeavors demand vast financial resources. Wouldn't it be revolutionary to possess a device capable of non-invasively scanning the subterranean world, producing detailed models of what lies beneath? A tool to unveil the Sphinx's secrets without risking its destruction. The word mummy often conjures images of shambling figures from horror films, a chill running down your spine. But in reality, mummies are invaluable artifacts that offer profound insights into ancient civilizations. They reveal the lives of rulers, the customs surrounding death, and the beliefs that shaped entire societies. The ancient Egyptians are renowned for their elaborate mummification practices. They believed in an afterlife contingent upon the preservation of the physical body. Thus, they meticulously mummified their dead, placing them in richly furnished tombs, essentially providing them with fully equipped apartments for eternity. Their belief stemmed from a deep connection to the natural world. They observed the cyclical rhythms of nature, the daily rise and fall of the sun and moon, the resurgence of life from seemingly dead plants. They also revered Osiris, the powerful deity embodying death and resurrection, who played a key role in their vision of the afterlife. To prepare for this afterlife, the Egyptians practiced elaborate rituals, most notably mummification. This process involved using specialized materials like honey, resins, and incense to preserve the body from decay. No mummy is more famous than that of King Tutankhamun, the boy pharaoh who reigned over 3,000 years ago. The discovery of intact royal tombs is exceptionally rare, as most were plundered by grave robbers seeking the riches buried within. When Tutankhamun's tomb was opened in 1922, it was a sensation, untouched, unlike so many others. Within the tomb, his mummy lay encased in 3 nested coffins, one crafted entirely of solid gold. The artifacts discovered within revealed a wealth of information about ancient Egyptian life. Studying his mummy provided insights into the culture and practices prevalent during his reign. DNA analysis even revealed that he suffered from malaria and a foot ailment that likely hampered his mobility. Ramesses II, another powerful pharaoh, ruled for an impressive 68 years. He was celebrated for his military campaigns and ambitious construction projects. Many monuments from his reign still stand today, including colossal statues of himself. Ramesses II stood approximately 6 feet tall and lived to the age of 90. Examination of his mummy suggests he may have suffered from a spinal condition. Remember those grave robbers? They are likely the reason why Ramesses II was eventually discovered in a simple coffin, hidden within a secret cache of royal mummies at Deir el-Bahri, rediscovered in 1881. A testament to the enduring allure and vulnerability of ancient treasures. Imagine traveling back in time to ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs and pyramids. Here, the process of mummification was an elaborate ritual, a sacred journey into the afterlife. Remarkably, archaeologists were able to identify individuals even after millennia, thanks to records meticulously inscribed on their rings. This identification process, however, was far from simple. It was a painstaking task demanding patience and precision. In fact, the mummification process in ancient Egypt could take a staggering 70 days to complete. Picture this. A specially designated individual would recite a specific speech, their voice resonating in the chamber while delicately handling the body. They would carefully dry it out using a type of salt known as natron. Linen and resin were then employed to restore a lifelike appearance to the deceased and to meticulously wrap the body in layers of cloth. But the tomb itself was equally important, serving as a gateway to eternity. Consider the walls of King Tutankhamun's tomb, for example. They were adorned with intricate artwork, vibrant depictions of his journey to the afterlife, from his grand burial procession to his passage through the underworld. The ancient Egyptians firmly believed that everyone undertook this spiritual journey after death. To aid the deceased in their travels, they filled their tombs with essential items and illustrative paintings. Furthermore, the tomb walls were decorated with spells taken from a special book, a collection of poems believed to assist the soul in reaching the afterlife. Speaking of the vital importance of this journey, people also placed food within these ancient tombs. Inside King Tut's tomb, archaeologists unearthed 36 jars containing vintage beverages and 8 baskets filled with fruit. These provisions were believed to sustain him on his long voyage to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that this journey took a considerable amount of time, so they furnished their loved ones with ample supplies, including food and water. Pharaohs, naturally, had numerous luxurious garments and exquisite jewelry placed in their tombs, ensuring they would embark on their journey in style. These items included various types of linen clothing, such as tunics, scarves, gloves, and elaborate headdresses. There was also an abundance of gold jewelry adorned with precious stones, bracelets, buckles, pendants, necklaces, rings, and even precious depictions of insects included for protection. Some were also buried with fans crafted from ivory and ostrich feathers to keep them cool in the afterlife. Some ancient rulers were even placed in their eternal resting places along with their prized weapons. Pharaoh Khufu, for example, commissioned the construction of the Great Pyramid at Giza as his tomb, and a massive ship was discovered within its walls. King Tut, however, was buried with multiple boat paddles, but no actual boat. Instead, he had 3 chariots and numerous walking sticks crafted from precious materials, perhaps indicating his preference for land travel to the afterlife. Among the most intriguing objects found near ancient mummies are bottles of oils and perfumes. After all, if rulers were expected to be fashionable, why not ensure they smelled pleasant too? Additionally, some mummies were interred with ancient board games, often made from precious materials like gold or ivory. One such game, called Senet, was immensely popular among the ancient Egyptians, bearing a striking resemblance to modern-day chess. While the ancient Egyptians may have the most famous mummies in the world, they were not the first to develop the mummification process. This practice originated in South America with an ancient civilization known as the Chinchorro. As far as we know, these people were the first to mummify their deceased loved ones, beginning their rituals roughly 2,000 years before the Egyptians. Certainly, we can learn a great deal about ancient rulers by studying these mummies. However, until recently, we had no clear idea of what they actually looked like during their lifetimes. But not so long ago, some remarkable mummy paintings were discovered by archaeologists studying ancient Egyptian artifacts. These mummy portraits are highly detailed paintings of individuals created while they were still alive. These paintings were often done on wood, unlike the classical portraits we are familiar with, which are painted on canvas. These portraits are celebrated for their realism and beauty, and have even been used by researchers to diagnose diseases by comparing them to the mummies themselves. Some of these portraits also feature depictions of jewelry, which was later found on the corresponding mummies. The recent discovery of these mummy portraits in Central Egypt is significant, marking the first time in over a century that such paintings have been found. Mummies also appeared naturally around the world. Mummification can occur without human intervention due to natural conditions, such as extremely cold or hot environments, places with a lack of oxygen, or accidental exposure to chemicals that preserve the body. These conditions inhibit bacterial growth, resulting in the body remaining relatively intact. Otzi the Iceman, discovered in the Alps, is one such example. He was a man who lived around 5,000 years ago. Imagine traveling back in time, not to the age of dinosaurs, but to a more recent, yet still mysterious past. We find ourselves in Europe, many years ago. But our story truly begins with a remarkable discovery in the Alps in 1991. Austrian authorities stumbled upon a body, incredibly well preserved, frozen in time. Initially, they assumed it was a modern mountaineer, a tragic accident claimed by the unforgiving mountains. However, as the Iceman was carefully extracted from the icy grip of the glacier, a startling truth emerged. This man was not modern at all. He was a relic of the Copper Age, a man who lived millennia ago. Now, let's jump forward to 1898. Picture yourself as an archaeologist, filled with the spirit of adventure, participating in excavations in Saqqara. This location, a short distance from Cairo, teems with ancient tombs and pyramids, whispering promises of forgotten secrets. You're channeling your inner Indiana Jones, driven by the hope of unearthing something extraordinary, something that will etch your name in the annals of history. Gold, ancient manuscripts, treasure maps, the mummies of famous pharaohs. The possibilities dance in your mind. But wait, what's this? A wooden bird. A wave of disappointment washes over you. It appears to be a simple toy, old certainly, but nothing more than that. Little do you know that years later, someone will propose a theory so audacious, so revolutionary, that it will challenge our understanding of history itself. That your toy was, in fact, an ancient monoplane. This artifact, now famously nicknamed the Saqqara bird, is crafted from the wood of a sycamore tree. The small avian figure boasts a wingspan of just 7 inches and weighs a mere 40 grams, a seemingly insignificant object. One might even consider it a quaint souvenir from Egypt. It's over 2,000 years old and possesses a rather unassuming appearance, lacking any intricate carvings of feathers or elaborate ornamentation. However, it does feature a beak and eyes, lending it a resemblance to a hawk, the emblem of the deity Horus. But it's the tail that truly sets this artifact apart. Its squared-off design looks strangely upright, and a sunken portion suggests that a piece, now lost to time, was once attached. Humans, by nature, are drawn to unraveling mysteries. And so, numerous attempts have been made to decipher the true purpose of the Saqqara bird. The first, and perhaps most straightforward, explanation is that it was a ceremonial object used in religious rituals. Another idea suggests that it was a toy, perhaps belonging to a child from a wealthy family. It could have even been a type of boomerang, a popular form of recreation in ancient Egypt. A more outlandish theory posited that the bird served as a weather vane, but this idea was quickly dismissed due to the absence of any holes or markings, save for the one created at the Cairo Museum to secure the exhibit to a stand. Almost a century after its discovery, Egyptologist Dr. Khalil Massia proposed a groundbreaking new theory, that the Saqqara bird was, in fact, a model of a monoplane. He argued that the bird was missing a horizontal tailplane, but that its wings were set at a right angle, mirroring the design of modern aircraft. He theorized that this design could have generated the aerodynamic lift necessary for flight. Dr. Massia further claimed that it was common practice at the time to place miniature models of technological inventions in tombs. Did the ancient Egyptians truly invent the plane in 200 BCE? If so, this would undoubtedly upset the Wright brothers, who are widely credited with inventing aviation with their first flights in 1903. There's only one definitive way to settle this debate: to test the model. However, the ancient museum in Cairo is unlikely to allow one of its most cherished exhibits to be flown around like a toy. In response, glider designer Martin Gregory constructed a similar model from balsa wood. His conclusion? Even without the missing tailplane, the plane wasn't much of a flyer. Case closed? Not quite. This finding didn't satisfy the History Channel, who invited an aerodynamics expert to build another replica of the bird. He tested it under weather conditions mirroring those in Egypt and was impressed by the little plane's abilities. If the ancient Egyptians did indeed invent the prototype of a plane back in the time of the pharaohs, it would serve as a prime example of an oupart, an out-of-place artifact. This refers to an object that is far ahead of its time in terms of technology or historical context. And the Saqqara bird is not the only example of such a revolutionary concept. In 1901, a group of divers recovered the Antikythera mechanism from an underwater shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera. This device has been hailed as the world's first analog computer, dating back to around 100 BCE. The intricate bronze mechanism could predict the positions of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, as well as lunar phases, the dates of upcoming solar eclipses, and even the speed at which the moon travels across the sky. While its user, purpose, and place of origin remain shrouded in mystery, its extreme precision and advanced nature are undeniable. Now, let's talk about toilets. The first flushing toilets weren't invented in the middle of the 20th century, as the joke suggests. The ancient Minoans on the Mediterranean island of Crete and the Indus Valley civilization independently developed this ingenious invention around 4,000 years ago. Their plumbing and sanitation systems were so advanced that no one managed to design anything better for another 2,000 years. One ancient Minoan lavatory, discovered at the Palace of Knossos, featured a wooden seat positioned over a tunnel that directed waste away. Imagine, if you will, ancient cities where even basic sanitation was a luxury. Some fortunate residents might have had access to rooftop reservoirs that channeled water to underground sewers. Others relied on jugs, a privilege reserved for the wealthiest citizens. So, if you were house hunting in those days, the presence of a flushing toilet was an unmistakable sign that you had arrived in an affluent neighborhood. Automated doors, which we often perceive as a modern marvel, actually have roots stretching far back into antiquity. While they gained renewed popularity in 1931, the underlying technology can be traced to the 1st century CE. Picture Heron of Alexandria, a brilliant mathematician and engineer from that era. He devised a clever hydraulic system to open and close temple doors. To activate this ancient mechanism, a fire was lit, providing the necessary heat. Beneath the fire sat a brass pot, partially filled with water. This pot was connected to a series of containers that served as weights. As the fire blazed, the water was forced into these containers, causing them to descend and pull on ropes, thus opening the temple doors. Of course, this was a far cry from the supermarket doors of today, which seemed to anticipate our arrival. Heron's doors took hours to open, and there was no way to halt the process. Consequently, they were typically opened only once a day, adding an air of mystique to temple ceremonies. Now, let's journey to Baghdad, roughly 2,000 years ago. Here it appears the first ever battery was invented. In 1938, a German archaeologist unearthed an oval-shaped clay jar. To this day, scientists are still piecing together its purpose and the identity of its inventor. One compelling theory suggests it was used for electroplating objects with precious metals. When filled with a mild acid, such as vinegar, the battery could generate approximately 1 volt of electricity. Another intriguing possibility is that it served as a vessel for safeguarding sacred scrolls. Fancy buying contact lenses designed by none other than Leonardo da Vinci himself? Back in 1508, this Renaissance genius conceived of a glass lens equipped with a funnel. The idea was to wear it filled with water to correct vision. Sounds rather uncomfortable, doesn't it? A century later, French scientist René Descartes sought to refine this concept, envisioning lenses that would directly contact the cornea. Hence, contact lenses were born. While the glass tube filled with liquid did offer visual improvement, blinking became an unfortunate impossibility. Fast forward 2.5 centuries, and advancements in glass-making technology enabled scientists to create lenses that fit snugly on the eye and even allowed the wearer to blink. Progress! However, these early lenses were crafted from heavy-blown glass and restricted the eye's ability to breathe. Around 50 years later, plastic entered the scene, making contacts lightweight, shatterproof, and scratch-resistant. Yet they still covered the entire eye. Then, in 1948, an English optical technician stumbled upon a breakthrough while sanding down a plastic lens. He realized that the lens would remain in place even if it covered only the cornea. A pivotal moment in contact lens history. Picture yourself in 19th century London, needing to send a message to New York. By ship, it would take about 10 days. So, when delivery times plummeted from days to mere hours in 1858, it was a truly revolutionary event. The first message was sent by Queen Victoria herself, made possible by the transatlantic telegraph cable snaking beneath the ocean. Alas, this groundbreaking invention was short-lived, sputtering out after only a few weeks. It would take years to revive it. Consider the Great Pyramids, one of the original 7 wonders of the world, and the only one still standing. But did you know that the pyramids of Giza weren't the only pyramids in existence, and they weren't even the first? In ancient Egypt, it was believed that kings were chosen by the gods to serve as their earthly intermediaries. Upon death, they were expected to become gods themselves. The pyramid complex was meticulously constructed to ensure that the king had everything he might require in the afterlife. This complex encompassed the pyramid itself, a palace and temples. The tomb within the pyramid, where the king was laid to rest, was filled with necessities and luxuries, including furniture, food, and gold vessels. Remarkably, the first pyramid predates the first pyramid of Giza by some 80 years. In total, approximately 100 pyramids were built, although some remained unfinished as construction was a lengthy process, and not every pharaoh reigned long enough to see its completion. Let's delve into the construction itself. The largest of the pyramids of Giza soars as high as a 40-story building. How on earth did they manage to erect such a colossal structure 5,000 years ago, long before the advent of machines and modern equipment? Around 2575 BCE, Pharaoh Khufu ascended the throne, and his architects embarked on the construction of the oldest and largest of the Giza pyramids. Imagine for a moment standing before the colossal pyramids of Giza. Consider the sheer scale of this undertaking. Experts estimate that over 2 million blocks of limestone were used in its construction. Each of these gigantic blocks weighed around 2.5 tons, roughly the weight of a modern rhinoceros. The ambitious architect behind this project aimed to complete it in just 20 years. To achieve this monumental task, a stone had to be quarried, transported, and precisely placed every 4 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, excluding leap years, of course. It's clear that an immense workforce was required. Popular belief often suggests that enslaved people toiled under harsh conditions to build the pyramids. However, archaeological evidence paints a different picture. Workers journeyed from all corners of Egypt to contribute to this extraordinary endeavor. In total, around 25,000 individuals participated in the construction. These weren't just unskilled laborers. Egyptians performed a wide array of tasks, from heavy manual labor and crafting essential tools to managing administrative duties. They typically worked around 10 hours a day, but they were housed comfortably and provided with ample food. In fact, their living conditions were better than what the average Egyptian could afford at the time. Supposedly, the builders resided in a temporary city constructed nearby, forming a highly organized community with a strong leadership structure. The pyramid's design itself is remarkable, aligning with the cardinal directions with incredible accuracy. Its sides were even believed to symbolize the sun's rays. Keep in mind, this was an era long before compasses. The ancient Egyptians determined directions with astonishing precision, using 2 specific constellations to align the pyramids. The construction site was strategically located on the west bank of the Nile River. This location held symbolic significance. Just as the sun sets in the west, so too does life. The second pyramid of Giza was commissioned by Khafra, the son of Khufu. Slightly smaller than its predecessor, it's also the site of the famous and famously noseless Sphinx. Of course, the Sphinx originally had a nose. What happened to it remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Sphinxes, with their lions' bodies and human heads, were regarded as guardians of important locations. This particular Sphinx, often called the Great Sphinx, Sphinx Giza, is believed to bear the likeness of Pharaoh Khafre, guarding his pyramid and facing the rising sun. It stands as one of the largest and oldest statues in the world. Originally, the Sphinx wasn't just noseless, it was also painted. Scientists have uncovered traces of red pigment on its face, suggesting that it was likely painted a vibrant red. Remnants of yellow and blue paint have also been found on its body, indicating that the statue was far from the dull gray monument we see today. Until around 1800, the Sphinx was buried up to its shoulders in sand. It wasn't until an adventurer, with a team of 160 men, excavated it completely. But let's return to the construction itself. The workers needed a constant supply of stone blocks. 2 primary quarries provided these materials. One source was located near the construction site, but the fossil-rich yellow stone found there was only suitable for the pyramid's interior. The limestone blocks required for the exterior were transported from a quarry 8 miles away, using sleds that were 30 feet long. Surprisingly, pulling these massive blocks wasn't as difficult as one might imagine. By mixing the sand with the right amount of water, the surface became quite slick. It's estimated that just 10 people could move a sled, even with a rock weighing several tons. Cutting the limestone blocks wasn't the biggest challenge either. While still in the ground, the limestone was relatively soft and could be split with relative ease. However, once exposed to the air, the limestone hardened considerably. The most difficult task was shaping the blocks with precision. The slightest inaccuracies could compromise the structural integrity of the entire pyramid, potentially leading to its collapse. So, the limestone was quarried, transported on sleds, and carefully shaped. But how were these colossal blocks lifted into place? This remains a subject of debate. Archaeologists have discovered the remains of a ramp system dating back to the time the pyramids were constructed. Historians generally agree that the Egyptians devised a unique ramp system to move and lift the massive stone blocks. The most widely accepted theory suggests that there were several ramps surrounding the pyramid. There may have been a central ramp with staircases on either side, built progressively higher as the pyramid grew taller. Workers likely walked up these stairs, pulling the stones on wooden sleds. However, this is just one possibility. Other experts propose that the ramps spiraled around the pyramid, while some even speculate that ramps were constructed inside the pyramid itself. Perhaps we will never know the definitive answer, and the mystery will endure. The exterior limestone of the pyramid was meticulously polished with sand and stone until it gleamed brilliantly. At the very top, a capstone made of gold and silver shimmered over Egypt like a second sun, a beacon of power and ingenuity. That's how it stood some 5,000 years ago. Now, let's take a look inside. Surprisingly, the interior of the pyramid is relatively simple. Most of it is solid stone, with very little open space. But let's take a quick tour of what's there. From the entrance, two grand stairways beckon, one descending into the depths, the other ascending towards the heavens. They lead us to the very heart of the Great Pyramid, the chambers. And what awaits us there? No fewer than 3 chambers. But why so many? It appears that, throughout the immense construction project, a burial chamber had to be perpetually ready, just in case the pharaoh met his end before the pyramid was complete. Separate chambers were therefore erected, one after the other, as the construction relentlessly progressed. The last of these, the grandest of them all, is the main one, the king's chamber. This is where Khufu himself rests. It's the largest room, situated at the very core of the pyramid, and a massive passageway leads directly to it. This passageway likely served as a kind of elevator, used to hoist the massive granite blocks required for the interior's construction. Granite, an incredibly durable stone, was also employed to fashion 5 stories of support beams, a crucial measure to ensure the immense structure didn't collapse under its own weight. And we can see that it worked. The Great Pyramid has stood for millennia, defying time itself. Yet surprisingly, none of these chambers bear hieroglyphs on their walls. If you seek the intricate writings and depictions of ancient life, you must venture to the decorated tombs near the pyramids. These artistic masterpieces offer a vivid window into ancient Egypt's culture and daily life. The texts themselves enable researchers to meticulously study their ancient language and grammar, unlocking secrets of a bygone era. The treasures that once filled these pyramids have long since been plundered, stolen by grave robbers and treasure hunters. Countless secret tunnels and passages snake through the pyramid's interior, a labyrinthine network whose complete plan remains a mystery to this day. For years, scientists have deployed miniature robots, equipped with cameras, to explore these hidden spaces, yet vast areas remain uncharted. Now, they are attempting to scan the pyramids from the outside using X-ray technology, hoping to unveil their secrets without disturbing their ancient structure. Yes, the ancient Egyptians crafted a mystery that has defied solution for 5 long millennia. Now, imagine this, discovering an entire ancient city without ever leaving the comfort of your own home. In 1963, a man in the Nevşehir province of Turkey did just that. While renovating his house, he struck a wall in his basement and discovered a mysterious room. Driven by curiosity, he continued digging, unearthing a tunnel that snaked into the earth. This is how Derinkuyu, the incredible underground city, was found. Derinkuyu stands as one of the deepest and most elaborate multi-level underground settlements in Cappadocia, and indeed in all of Turkey. This engineering marvel boasts no fewer than 8 levels. The inhabitants who once dwelled on these subterranean floors had access to everything they needed: cellars for storage, living quarters, even a school, a study room, and other essential structures. All levels are interconnected by an extensive network of tunnels, a subterranean maze. It is believed that this underground city was constructed as a shelter, a refuge from invaders. Concealed from the outside world, its depth plunges to approximately 279 feet. The complex was vast enough to shelter an estimated 20,000 people, along with their livestock and essential food supplies. A 180-foot ventilation shaft provided fresh air to the depths and also served as a well, supplying water to both the villagers living above ground and those hidden below. Intriguingly, those residing on the lower levels possessed the ability to cut off the water supply to the upper levels and the surface. This ingenious design protected the water source from potential poisoning, a crucial defense against a siege. The entire place was meticulously designed for protection. The narrow tunnels could be sealed from the inside with massive, round rolling stone doors, each a formidable barrier. The passageways themselves were so narrow that potential invaders would have to enter one at a time, making them vulnerable to attack. It seems they truly thought of everything. Archaeologists theorize that the Phrygians were the original builders of the earliest levels, dating back to the 7th century BCE. Later, during Roman times, the structure was expanded and enhanced, and it was during this period that the chapels were added. However, the golden age of Derinkuyu occurred during the Byzantine era. But how did these ancient people manage to carve out such intricate tunnels and chambers? The secret lies in the rock itself. They carved into a soft volcanic rock, formed by a geological process that began millions of years ago. Volcanic eruptions blanketed the area in thick ash, which then solidified into this easily workable rock. Over eons, the natural forces of wind and water eroded the softer parts, leaving behind the harder, more resistant elements. A fascinating fact: the iconic fairy chimneys of Cappadocia are also composed of this intricately shaped volcanic rock. However, unlike Derinkuyu, they were sculpted entirely by natural forces, without any human intervention. Now, let us travel onward, still within Turkey, but this time our destination is Hisarlik, where a myth was brought to life. For 3,000 years, people believed that Homer's Iliad was nothing more than a work of fiction, and that the legendary city of Troy existed only in the realm of imagination. But in 1863, everything changed. Frank Calvert, an expatriate, discovered ancient ruins in western Turkey. He became convinced that these ruins were, in fact, the remains of ancient Troy. Heinrich Schliemann, a renowned archaeologist, examined the area in 1868. It was then, after centuries of obscurity, that Troy once again saw the light of day. Troy is not a single city, but a complex tapestry of layers. Over the centuries, no fewer than 9 ancient cities were built on top of one another, each leaving its mark on the landscape. Historians believe that the area was strategically located between... Let's journey back to ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs, gods, and untold mysteries. Imagine the golden mask of Tutankhamun, King Tut, a symbol of immense power and wealth. But even this iconic artifact holds secrets. Some theories suggest that the pierced ears on the mask wouldn't have been appropriate for a young man of his age. According to this line of thought, by the time he died at 18, he likely wouldn't have worn earrings. Could this indicate that the mask originally belonged to someone else? Perhaps even Nefertiti, or an individual with no connection to King Tut at all? The mask is not the only enigma surrounding the boy king. In fact, his entire tomb is a puzzle box of ancient secrets. Recently, historians uncovered evidence suggesting the location where King Tut was meant to be buried was altered at the last moment. For years, experts have been baffled as to why a pharaoh who reigned for a relatively short 9 years would be interred in such an unassuming tomb. Compared to the grandeur and opulence of other pharaohs' final resting places, his tomb seems, well, rather plain. The idea that a king like Tutankhamun would have such a modest burial site simply doesn't align with the power and prestige he must have commanded in ancient Egypt. So, what really happened? One compelling theory points to his successor, Pharaoh I. Some researchers believe that I orchestrated the erasure of Tutankhamun from Egypt's historical record. A plausible scenario suggests that I was behind the hasty decision to place King Tut's body in a smaller, less impressive tomb. When experts examined A's own tomb, they made a fascinating discovery. A massive wall adorned with painted baboons mirrors similar artwork found within Tutankhamun's tomb. It appears that the same artist or team may have been responsible for the artwork in both tombs. In fact, the design and decoration of the two tombs bear striking similarities, hinting at a shared vision. However, there is one crucial difference. A's tomb is truly fit for a king. It's considerably larger and far more impressive. Despite the stylistic and artistic parallels with Tutankhamun's tomb, A's resting place exudes a level of grandeur that Tut's lacks. The theory posits that I dictated the design and contents of both tombs. Because Tutankhamun's death was unexpected and premature, his grand tomb was never completed in time. Typically, pharaohs begin construction on their tombs during their reign to ensure every detail is perfect. But Tutankhamun passed away at the young age of 18, leaving insufficient time for such preparations. I may have seized this opportunity, commissioning a smaller tomb for Tutankhamun while reserving a more lavish one for himself. Experts believe this theory provides a compelling explanation for the relative simplicity of Tutankhamun's tomb and how I managed to effectively erase him from the annals of history. In the end, the saga of King Tut's mask and tomb remains shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Each new discovery sheds a bit more light on the events that transpired millennia ago. One thing is certain: the secrets of ancient Egypt continue to captivate, and King Tutankhamun will continue to fascinate for generations to come. Now, fast forward to November 1922. Picture a young boy traversing the rugged desert mountains of Egypt. He stumbles upon ancient steps carved into the rock face. This seemingly insignificant find would soon become one of the world's most significant archaeological discoveries: the entrance to Tutankhamun's untouched tomb. Inside, archaeologists unearthed approximately 5,000 ancient artifacts, including priceless jewelry, intricate fabrics, painted vessels, and, of course, the iconic funeral mask. You've undoubtedly seen it. It's become one of the most recognizable symbols of ancient Egypt. More than a century has passed since that momentous discovery. Today, humanity stands on the cusp of another potentially groundbreaking find: the tomb of Cleopatra. This legendary queen was the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, reigning from 51 to 30 BCE. Numerous ancient records detail Cleopatra's life, her reign, and her captivating personality. Yet the secrets surrounding her death and burial place have remained elusive. Until now, perhaps. One dedicated archaeologist, Dr. Kathleen Martinez, has spent decades meticulously studying ancient texts and temples in and around Alexandria. Her research has led her to believe that Cleopatra's tomb lies beneath the ancient city of Taposiris Magna, founded in 280 BCE. Taposiris Magna was a bustling metropolis on Egypt's northern coast, where tens of thousands of people engaged in trade and industry. And it appears that Dr. Martinez's intuition may be correct. She and her team of archaeologists have unearthed a secret underground tunnel near Alexandria, stretching nearly a mile in length. The tunnel was carved into the bedrock beneath Taposiris Magna's temple. Further excavations have yielded numerous clues suggesting Cleopatra's tomb lies hidden within the tunnel's depths. It's even possible that she is buried alongside her lover, the Roman commander Mark Antony. Ancient accounts depict a passionate relationship between Cleopatra and Mark Antony, who together defied the Roman Senate, which branded Antony a traitor. The fact that natural disasters have plagued the Taposiris Magna region for millennia could significantly complicate the excavation efforts. Earthquakes and floods have ravaged the city, potentially flooding its intricate network of underground tunnels. Imagine traveling back in time, not to the age of dinosaurs, but to witness the rise and fall of ancient civilizations. Our journey begins in what is now Turkey, at the legendary city of Troy. Situated strategically between Europe and Asia, it blossomed into a vibrant hub of trade and culture. This prime location made Troy a coveted prize throughout history. Following the infamous Trojan War, the city lay abandoned for centuries, from approximately 1100 to 700 BCE. Then, Greek settlers rediscovered its ruins, and even Alexander the Great himself held dominion here. Later, the relentless Roman legions marched through its gates. Speaking of this iconic location, the first sight that greets visitors today is a replica of the wooden Trojan horse, a prop from the 2004 movie. Our next destination lies far to the east, in India. Picture the 1950s, a time of archaeological awakening. The discovery of Lothal, along with several other Harappan sites, dramatically expanded the known boundaries of the Indus Valley civilization. Lothal was a crucial artery in the Harappan world, boasting vast fields of cotton and rice. It was also home to a sophisticated bead-making industry, where artisans crafted exquisite ornaments from semi-precious stones like agate. Many of these beads have been unearthed in Mesopotamia, providing compelling evidence that Lothal was a bustling trading port, a vital link in an ancient network. Archaeologists believe the city was a cornerstone of ancient trade routes. Imagine the scene: traces of agriculture, remnants of bustling trade. What else remains? The foundations of residential buildings, the layout of streets, bathing pavements, and intricate drainage systems. This was true city planning, a remarkable example of early urbanization. The town was meticulously constructed, featuring what would be considered modern houses. Some boasted 6 rooms, private bathrooms, a spacious courtyard, and even a veranda. Unheard of at the time. Lothal also possessed the world's oldest known dock, a marvel of engineering that connected the city to the Sabarmati River and facilitated its thriving trade. Now let's journey across continents to the heart of southern Mexico, where the ancient Mayan city of Calakmul lies hidden within the dense tropical forest of the Tierras Bajas. From 500 CE to 800 CE, Calakmul teemed with life, home to over 50,000 people. A grand central plaza formed the city's core, surrounded by sprawling outer districts. When we consider the inhabitants of these outer areas, Calakmul's population swells to over 1.5 million. A metropolis in its time. This city thrived for an astonishing 12 centuries. It is believed that Calakmul features more constructions than any other excavated Maya settlement in the region. However, after 1000 CE, the mighty Maya civilization faced a period of decline. The settlement, once the vibrant center of Mesoamerica, was almost entirely abandoned. This ancient city stood at the heart of the second largest tropical forest in the Americas. The site is remarkably well preserved. Today, a visit allows us to vividly imagine life in ancient Mayan times. The city's remains include intricate architectural complexes, sculpted monuments, sophisticated defensive systems, causeways, advanced water management features, agricultural terraces, colossal temple pyramids, and opulent palaces. Not to mention a wealth of body ornaments and other accompanying objects. These artifacts provide irrefutable proof that a complex state-organized society flourished in this tropical forest. The Mayans possessed a profound connection with nature, reflected in their paintings, pottery, sculptures, rituals, and even their cuisine. Finally, we travel to a place once thought to exist only in legends, the city of Thonis Heracleion. It appeared only in fragmented inscriptions and ancient texts, a whisper in the winds of history. For millennia, it lay hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. Scientists scoured the Egyptian coast for decades, but it was archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team who finally made the breakthrough. They detected a colossal face staring up at them from the depths. The ancient city of Heracleion was found completely submerged, 4 miles off the coast of Alexandria. Within the ruins of this lost city lay a breathtaking treasure trove. 64 ships, 700 anchors, and a hoard of shimmering gold coins. Archaeologists consider a towering 16-foot statue, and the temple remains to be among the most significant discoveries. Back then, the city was a stage for elaborate ceremonies and celebrations held within the Temple of Amun. The ruins and artifacts, crafted from durable granite and diorite, remained in remarkably good condition despite centuries of submersion. They offer a fascinating glimpse into life 2,300 years ago in one of the world's most important trading ports. The city was crisscrossed by a network of canals, like an ancient Egyptian Venice. These canals linked numerous harbors and anchorages, while bridges connected towers, temples, houses, and other structures. Thonis Heracleion served as Egypt's primary port for international trade and the collection of taxes. The cause of the city's submersion remains a mystery, but archaeologists attribute it to natural causes. Most likely, a catastrophic flood at the end of the 2nd century BCE led to Heracleion's watery demise. In the aftermath, Alexandria, the city founded by Alexander the Great, rose to prominence, eclipsing Heracleion's former glory. Before Alexandria's fame, Heracleion was the main port of entry to Egypt. After the disaster, ships bound for Heracleion were forced to alter their course and sail towards Alexandria, marking a new chapter in the region's history. Imagine traveling back in time, not millions of years to the age of dinosaurs, but a mere few thousand. Our destination, the southwestern United States, specifically Colorado. Here, nestled amidst towering mesas and deep canyons, lies Mesa Verde. Its ancient glory remained hidden for centuries, lost to the relentless march of time, until its rediscovery in 1933. Mesa Verde, meaning green table in Spanish, earns its name from the distinctive shape of its mountains. Picture vast, flat summits, like giant tabletops, abruptly giving way to precipitous, near-vertical slopes. It's a landscape that both protects and conceals. Today, Mesa Verde stands as an American national park, a treasure trove of archaeological wonders. More than just a park, it's the largest archaeological preserve in the United States, safeguarding over 5,000 individual sites. Among these, the crown jewels are undoubtedly the 600 remarkably preserved cliff dwellings. But who were the architects of these incredible structures? To understand their story, we need to journey back even further, to 7500 BCE. At this time, nomadic Paleo-Indians, the ancestors of the Pueblo people, began to seasonally inhabit Mesa Verde. These were not yet the builders of cities, but rather hunters, gatherers, and early crop farmers. These resourceful people gradually transformed the landscape, laying the foundation for what was to come. For millennia, they thrived, adapting to the harsh environment and developing sophisticated agricultural techniques. Then, something remarkable happened. By the end of the 12th century, a dramatic shift occurred. The Mesa Verdeans, driven by reasons still debated by archaeologists, began constructing the massive cliff dwellings that define the park today. These aren't simple shelters. They're complex, multi-story structures built directly into the sandstone cliffs. These dwellings, testaments to ingenuity and perseverance, are now the most iconic and best-known features within Mesa Verde National Park, whispering tales of a people who carved a life out of stone. Imagine, if you will, the sands of Egypt shifting once more, revealing secrets buried for millennia. Archaeologists are currently engaged in a painstaking excavation, driven by the hope that an undisturbed tomb lies beneath the surface, a time capsule holding invaluable treasures and chronicles of royal life during the twilight years of ancient Egypt's final dynasty. The challenges are immense. The dig site may extend underwater, submerged in thick mud, demanding considerable time, resources, and unwavering dedication. Yet, fueled by the tantalizing possibility of discovery, archaeologists believe the endeavor is worthwhile. While it remains premature to definitively state that this is Cleopatra's final resting place, compelling evidence has emerged from within the tunnel complex. Clay pots, scores of coins bearing the likenesses of Cleopatra and Alexander the Great, and even a bust believed to depict the Egyptian queen herself have been unearthed. Cleopatra, even now, reigns as a figure of immense fascination in Egypt, standing shoulder to shoulder with legendary pharaohs like Ramesses III and Tutankhamun. Her life has inspired countless films, paintings, and books. But what accounts for her enduring appeal? Cleopatra was a paradox, a queen of contradictions. She was renowned as a brilliant and astute ruler who steered Egypt away from the brink of collapse, transforming it into a prosperous power. Medieval Arabic texts credit her with a deep understanding of chemistry, mathematics, and philosophy, even suggesting she authored several scientific treatises. She was a polyglot, fluent in numerous languages, and possessed exceptional diplomatic skills. Conversely, legend paints her as a femme fatale, a siren who bewitched men and led them to their doom. Yet, concrete evidence of her unparalleled beauty remains elusive. The image of a stunningly beautiful Cleopatra was largely a creation of Hollywood, popularized through films featuring glamorous actresses in the role. Octavian, the adopted son of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra's adversary, deliberately cultivated the image of her as a treacherous seductress for political gain. Though born in Egypt, Cleopatra's lineage was Greek, descended from one of Alexander the Great's generals. Despite her Greek heritage, the Egyptian people embraced her as their own. She immersed herself in their language, demonstrating a profound respect for their traditions. She possessed an intimate knowledge of ancient Egypt's history, mentality, and customs. She championed the nation's economy and elevated its status on the world stage. Much of her success stemmed from her shrewdness and captivating personality. She reveled in theatrical performances and extravagant celebrations, possessing a knack for captivating audiences and staging unforgettable spectacles. However, beneath the glamorous facade lay an intelligent and calculating ruler. Ancient Egypt was a realm of immense wealth and opulence, and Cleopatra was determined to amplify its riches and strengthen its position in the international arena. Consider, for example, her conflict with her brother, Ptolemy the Rethurned. Realizing she couldn't overpower him through force, she sought to enlist the support of Julius Caesar. When the Roman emperor arrived in Alexandria, Cleopatra devised a daring plan to meet with him, circumventing Ptolemy's attempts to prevent her. Instead of a grand, ostentatious arrival, Cleopatra opted for stealth. Concealing herself within a carpet or linen bag, she had her servants carry her into Caesar's private chambers. Emerging from the carpet, she captivated the Roman emperor with her beauty and resolve. Their alliance blossomed into a passionate love affair, forging a powerful bond. Later, she employed similar tactics to win over another influential Roman, Mark Antony. She arrived to meet him aboard a magnificent golden barge, its purple sails billowing in the wind, propelled by silver oars. Cleopatra, adorned as Aphrodite, reclined beneath a lavish canopy, attended by servants dressed as cupids, fanning her and burning incense. Cleopatra orchestrated this spectacle with deliberate intent. Aware that Antony revered Greek mythology and saw himself as an embodiment of Dionysus, she aimed to impress him with a display of divine grandeur. The strategy worked. Antony was utterly captivated, eventually marrying her. Cleopatra secured her crown, solidified her alliance with Rome, and bore Antony 3 children. In Egypt, they indulged in lavish celebrations and basked in wealth and power. However, the relationship between a high-ranking Roman official and the Egyptian queen ignited a scandal in Rome. Octavian, Antony's primary rival in the power struggle, seized the opportunity to tarnish his competitor's reputation. He launched a propaganda campaign, portraying Cleopatra as a manipulative seductress in the eyes of Roman citizens, accusing Antony of succumbing to her charms. The Roman Senate sided with Octavian, declaring Cleopatra an enemy in 33 BCE. The conflict reached its climax when Antony's navy clashed with Octavian's fleet. Octavian emerged victorious, forcing his enemy to retreat to Egypt with Cleopatra. According to historical accounts, they sought refuge near Alexandria, pursued by the relentless Romans. They concealed themselves within one of Cleopatra's palaces, where they met their tragic end. Legend has it that Cleopatra, a skilled expert in poisons, deliberately provoked a venomous snake, a viper or an Egyptian cobra, to bite her, bringing her reign to a dramatic and final close. Legend says she pricked herself with a poison needle. There's even a theory that Cleopatra always carried a hidden ampule of poison inside her elaborate hairbrush. When cornered, she supposedly soaked a needle with this deadly concoction and ended her own life. But the truth remains elusive. Scientists continue their quest to uncover the reality behind her demise. Perhaps one day, when Cleopatra's tomb is finally discovered, the world will gain definitive answers about her tragic fate. She's remembered as the last ruler of Egypt. After her death, Octavian ruthlessly plundered her palaces and temples, returning to Rome to become its supreme emperor. He ruled successfully, expanding the empire's borders until his death at 75. World history would undoubtedly be different if Cleopatra and Mark Antony hadn't suffered defeat in that crucial naval battle. And consider this. A greater span of time separates Cleopatra's reign from Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon than from the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Armstrong took his historic step in 1969, a full 38 years after Cleopatra's birth. The pyramids, however, were built around 2560 BCE. Imagine the sheer depth of ancient Egyptian history. Cleopatra is far closer to our time than she was to the builders of those colossal pyramids. Picture this. It's nighttime, and we're about to enter the final resting place of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, King Tut himself. We don't have a torch, but thankfully, we've come prepared with a flashlight. Descending several flights of stairs, we observe the walls, meticulously carved with hieroglyphics and what appears to be a powerful spell. Those who take anything from this place will be doomed for life, the inscription warns. Even if we don't fully believe in curses, a shiver runs down our spine. We discover a massive stone door. Is this a trap? With effort, we manage to open it, only to find an empty chamber. Disappointment washes over us. Consulting our map, we press on, convinced we're heading in the right direction. But after what feels like hours of wandering, a chilling realization dawns. We're trapped within a labyrinth. Desperately, we try to retrace our steps, but the entrance has vanished. Panic sets in. We've fallen victim to the pharaoh's cunning trap, and to make matters worse, we forgot to pack a lunch. We've all seen those Hollywood movies, right? The intrepid hero exploring ancient ruins, dodging deadly traps at every turn. We're led to believe that Egyptian royalty protected their tombs with elaborate defenses, venomous scorpions and snakies, sliding doors that seal intruders forever, and giant rolling boulders poised to crush anyone in their path. But were these fantastical traps truly real? I regret to shatter the illusion, but the truth is, these elaborate mechanisms were simply too advanced for ancient civilizations to construct. That's not to say, however, that there were no protective measures in place. Ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians and the Mayans, were renowned for building monumental structures dedicated to their deceased rulers. These monuments often reflected the individual's status and importance in society. For the VIPs of their time, massive monuments were erected to house their bodies for eternity. Many of these cultures believed that life continued after death. Therefore, the deceased were buried with their earthly possessions. For those with immense wealth and power, their tombs were overflowing with riches and gold. Now, imagine living in ancient Egypt, knowing the location of the pharaoh's tombs, and hearing whispers of the unimaginable wealth contained within. Wouldn't you be tempted to investigate? We're talking about vast chambers filled to the brim with golden artifacts, priceless jewels, and untold riches. It sounds incredibly tempting. And since there were no modern security systems guarding these sacred places, the Egyptians had to devise creative ways to protect their treasures. These ancient civilizations employed a variety of traps, some more effective than others. A recurring tactic was the construction of empty chambers within the monument, designed to disorient and confuse potential burglars. Let's examine the final resting place of Amenhotep III as an example. His tomb, located in the city of Luxor, in an area known as the Western Valley of the Kings, was discovered by two French engineers between 1905 and 1914 CE. The structure is massive, comprising more than 10 chambers connected by a network of long corridors and steep stairways. The king's burial chamber is the most hidden and difficult to reach. An intruder attempting to locate it would likely stumble through numerous empty rooms, losing their way in the maze-like complex. Other pharaohs sought to safeguard their riches by commissioning monuments with false doors, concealing treacherous pits that plunged to depths of up to 20 feet. This way, an unsuspecting imagine an unwelcome guest venturing into the darkness, only to be met by a sudden gaping chasm, a deep hole cunningly placed on the path to the king's eternal chamber. Ancient pharaohs, masters of deception, meticulously designed labyrinthine corridors and constructed false walls, a bewildering maze to foil any would-be tomb raider. These elaborate designs meant that robbers could spend precious hours, or even days, desperately searching for the true burial chamber. And what of those legendary pits teeming with venomous snakes? Well, the reality is far less dramatic. Any reptiles found within these ancient monuments likely wandered in of their own accord and wouldn't have stayed long. A snake simply couldn't survive for years without sustenance in such an enclosed space. So, another Hollywood myth debunked. If these traps seem a little underwhelming, then consider the fascinating deterrent discovered in the final resting place of the Red Queen of Palenque in Mexico. Palenque, a dominant Mayan city in pre-Columbian Mexico, held the Red Queen in high esteem. She was believed to be the grandmother of the last Mayan king, undoubtedly a figure of immense importance. In her honor, a magnificent monument was erected to safeguard her remains after her death. The tomb's discovery alone sent shivers of excitement through the archaeological community. Back in 1994, while excavating the site, they unearthed an ancient monument. The first revelation was a room concealing a hidden doorway. Beyond that door lay a long, winding corridor, and at the end of this corridor, the Queen's chamber. Imagine the thrill as the team of archaeologists prepared to unveil the Queen's mummy. Within the chamber, she lay adorned with pearls, jade, shells, and other precious stones. But as the team meticulously examined the remains, they noticed something peculiar. A strange red-colored powder scattered throughout the room. Researchers knew that the color red held great significance for the Mexican people, adorning much of their clothing and architecture. But the purpose of this mysterious red substance remained elusive. A sample was carefully collected and sent for analysis. The results revealed the powder to be cinnabar, a highly toxic mineral. When inhaled, this powder can cause, let's just say, severe health problems. The team concluded that it could only be a trap designed to deter anyone attempting to pilfer the Queen's riches. So, dangerous powders may have been among the most sophisticated traps of the ancient world. But perhaps the most economical method to ward off unwanted visitors involved simply advertising the dangers. Spells were inscribed throughout the monument. While we might scoff at such a notion today, in ancient times these pronouncements were often surprisingly effective. The spells usually warned that anyone who dared to steal from the tomb would meet a tragic end. Some foretold of houses consumed by raging fires or devastating floods. Others predicted incurable and undiagnosed illnesses for the would-be thieves. But were these curses enough to deter determined grave robbers? There are stories that suggest these spells might have held real power. One such tale surrounds the renowned British Egyptologist Howard Carter, the man who unearthed the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in the 1920s. After months of fruitless digging, Carter stumbled upon the tomb's entrance by sheer chance. He discovered the top of a stairway hidden beneath the very ground he had been searching. With the help of his team, he cleared away the sand and rubble blocking the stairs, revealing a sealed doorway. The door bore several royal symbols, a clear indication that a person of great importance lay buried within. Carter, armed with a chisel, carefully made a hole in the upper left corner of the doorway. He peered inside, holding a candle to illuminate the darkness. He could scarcely believe his eyes. The chamber was filled with the shimmering reflections of gold and jewels. After being lost for over 3,000 years, Carter had discovered the final resting place of King Tutankhamun. But the story doesn't end there. The discovery was followed by a series of unfortunate events, leading many to believe in the pharaoh's curse. Carter himself passed away mysteriously just a few years later, and some of his assistants lost their homes in floods, echoing the very threats inscribed in the spells. Some dismissed these events as mere coincidence, lacking any concrete proof of a connection. But what do you think? Was this an effective trap after all? Unlike many other ancient Egyptian burial sites, King Tutankhamun's tomb remained hidden and untouched by thieves for an astonishing 3,000 years. One reason for this was its relatively small size and its secluded location in the Valley of the Kings. By the time Carter found it, the area had already been extensively explored. Moreover, the entrance was concealed by debris from the construction of a nearby tomb, further aiding in its concealment. Imagine a time capsule, sealed for millennia. For centuries, no human hand disturbed the eternal slumber of the boy king. The walls of the tomb remained untouched, bearing no inscriptions or markings on the outside. Time itself became an ally, guarding the secrets within until the 1920s. Then, a name echoed through the halls of history: Howard Carter. But was Carter truly the hero we envision? Recent findings cast a shadow of doubt, suggesting a figure more cunning than previously imagined. Before the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, Carter relentlessly pursued Egyptian artifacts, driven by a childhood fascination with the sculptures and inscriptions adorning ancient tombs. Upon unearthing the pharaoh's final resting place, Carter embarked on a decade-long endeavor, meticulously documenting and cataloging the treasures within. Golden thrones, majestic chariots, and imposing statues. These artifacts were destined for Egypt's museum in Cairo, transported down the Nile. Or so the official narrative claimed. Whispers of a different story have emerged, hinting that not all the riches reached their intended destination. A clandestine letter suggests a "one for them, one for me" policy, a secret arrangement that lined Carter's pockets. The letter, penned in 1922 to Sir Alan Gardiner, a renowned philologist and confidant of Carter, speaks of the tomb's discovery and seeks Gardiner's counsel. Another letter, dated 1934, reveals Gardiner expressing gratitude for an amulet received as a thank you gift. Carter insisted it didn't originate from Tutankhamun's tomb, yet the evidence suggests otherwise. Even the British director of the Egyptian Museum suspected Carter's clandestine activities, but lacked concrete proof. Comparing Gardiner's amulet to others unearthed from Tutankhamun's tomb, he found a perfect match. Disheartened by the compromising situation, Gardiner confided in Carter, urging him to return the stolen artifacts to Cairo. But the intrigue doesn't end there. In 1947, Alfred Lucas, a former colleague of Carter, divulged information in an obscure Cairo journal, claiming that Carter surreptitiously breached the burial chamber door before resealing it to conceal his actions. Why? The theory suggests that Carter and his crew entered the tomb prematurely, seizing valuable artifacts for personal gain. Unable to risk selling these treasures during their lifetimes, they allegedly planned to auction them off posthumously. Carter remained silent, neither confirming nor denying the accusations. However, the Egyptian government, wary of further disappearances, barred him from the tomb for a period. Some link these alleged thefts to the infamous Curse of King Tut. The tale, popularized soon after the tomb's discovery, warned of dire consequences for anyone who disturbed the boy pharaoh's slumber. While not involving mummies on rampages, the curse foretold misfortune and untimely deaths for those involved in the tomb's excavation. The most prominent victim of this supposed curse was George Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, the British aristocrat who financed the tomb's search. He died a year after the tomb's opening, fueling the curse's legend. However, Herbert's health was already failing upon his arrival in Cairo, and he succumbed to a common disease. Let's examine the numbers. Numerous individuals were connected to the tomb's opening: security personnel, archaeologists, and support staff. While some passed away shortly after the tomb opened to visitors, statistically, deaths are expected within any large group over time. The average lifespan of those supposedly targeted by the curse exceeded 20 years after it supposedly began. Herbert's daughter lived until the 1980s, half a century later, and Howard Carter himself lived until 1935, 16 years after the grand reveal. Some propose that the curse was a carefully orchestrated PR strategy. When Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered, imagine Howard Carter, the famed archaeologist, desperate to keep prying eyes away from his incredible find. Perhaps he even fueled the rumors of a curse, a supernatural barrier protecting the boy king's final resting place. But beyond the legends, what treasures were actually pilfered from Tutankhamun's tomb? The answer, it seems, is quite a bit of jewelry. And some fingers point directly at Carter himself. A French specialist, after meticulous research using old photographs taken inside the tomb in the 1920s, believes he's pieced together the fate of some of Tut's missing adornments. By comparing these vintage images with objects appearing in museums and auction houses, a compelling narrative emerges. First, consider a magnificent collar that once rested upon Tutankhamun's chest. This piece was found broken, fragmented. Intriguingly, some of these fragments made their way, via Carter to the Nelson Atkins Museum in Missouri. Meanwhile, other pieces resurfaced on a necklace owned by anonymous individuals who attempted to sell it in 2015, but their efforts proved unsuccessful. The Nelson Atkins Museum, acknowledging the research, has even confirmed this information on their own website. Then there's a piece of headdress, some beads that once adorned the Boy King. These too appear to have been discreetly taken by Carter. They were subsequently strung into another necklace and are now housed at the St. Louis Art Museum. Another elaborate collar, crafted from the glazed ceramic magic, spent some time at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Fortunately, it was repatriated to Egypt a little over a decade ago. This, too, seems to have vanished courtesy of Carter's actions. Despite these missing artifacts, the tomb of King Tutankhamun yielded an astonishing array of objects that have profoundly enriched our understanding of this remarkable ancient civilization. Take, for instance, the iconic burial mask. This colossal 21-inch tall masterpiece is fashioned from solid gold, inlaid with semi-precious stones and vibrant glass paste. Weighing in at a hefty 22 pounds, it depicts the boy pharaoh with a dignified long beard and a majestic headdress adorned with the symbols of a cobra and a vulture. Inscribed on the back is a spell from the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, intended to ensure its efficacy in the afterlife. Tutankhamun, it seems, was also an avid board game enthusiast. Archaeologists unearthed 4 complete board games within his tomb, some meticulously crafted from ivory. They also discovered a pair of exquisite gold sandals, likely more for ceremonial display than practical use. In fact, it's highly probable that the pharaoh never actually wore them during his lifetime. Speaking of fashion, Tut was clearly a stylish ruler. A mannequin was even found in his tomb, used for selecting, adjusting, and storing his elaborate outfits. Beyond jewelry and attire, the Boy King also seemed to appreciate music. 2 trumpets were discovered within his tomb. These instruments were famously played during a BBC broadcast in 1935. However, due to their fragile state, they are now considered too delicate to be handled or played. Now, let's journey to another, more gruesome, discovery in Egypt. Imagine the scene: 16 human hands, carefully buried in 4 unsettling pits. Initially, they didn't resemble human hands, being abnormally large. But the truly bizarre aspect: they were all right hands. Not a single left hand was present. This macabre find points to the practice of an ancient dark ritual. Old Egyptian art and folklore speak of a ceremony where warriors would present the severed right hands of their defeated enemies as proof of victory, demanding gold as reward. The ancient Egyptians believed in the afterlife, and severing a hand meant severing a person's power for eternity, guaranteeing their eternal defeat. This held immense significance for the victorious party. In this instance, the conflict was between the Egyptians and the Hyksos, who once inhabited the region known as Canaan. Egypt continues to be a treasure trove of history-altering discoveries. Consider a papyrus scroll unearthed some time ago. If fully unfurled, it would be just slightly taller than the world's smallest skyscraper. That quirky landmark located in Wichita Falls, Texas. Before the advent of smartphones and digital note-taking, ancient Egyptians relied on this material, crafted from the medulla of the papyrus plant, to record their thoughts and knowledge. Around 2,000 years ago, ancient Egyptians inscribed upon such a papyrus a text resembling a book, detailing their funerary traditions and their visions of the afterlife. This document, considered one of the most important texts from ancient Egypt, is still available for purchase in bookstores today. This ancient manuscript was recovered from a chamber situated just south of the Pyramid of Djoser, located in Saqqara. Yes, Djoser's pyramid is the oldest in Egypt, predating the more famous Giza pyramids. Recently, the Saqqara site was abuzz with excitement as archaeologists unearthed what they believe to be one of Egypt's oldest complete mummies. This remarkably well-preserved mummy is believed to be that of a wealthy man. He was discovered in a deep shaft, encased in layers of gold leaf. Numerous symbols indicate his high status and wealth, including the band adorning his head, the bracelet on his chest, and the fact that he was embalmed wearing a tunic, a privilege reserved for the elite. Imagine journeying back thousands of years, to the sand-swept lands of ancient Egypt. Here, amidst the towering pyramids and sprawling necropolises, archaeologists continue to unearth incredible secrets, revealing the beliefs and customs of a civilization obsessed with the afterlife. One of the most remarkable discoveries was a sealed burial site, untouched for 4,300 years. The mortar remained intact, a testament to the meticulous care with which the ancient Egyptians prepared their dead for eternity. Now, consider this. Back in 2008, a missing pyramid was located. Over 4 millennia, the relentless desert winds and shifting sands had taken their toll, reducing it to little more than its base. Yet, this site held immense significance. It's believed that this pyramid was the epicenter of sacred ceremonies, where high priests would parade the mummified remains of Apis bulls. These were no ordinary bulls. Ancient Egyptians considered Apis bulls to be earthly incarnations of Ptah, the city deity of Memphis, deeply connected to fertility rites. To qualify, an Apis bull had to be entirely black, save for a single white mark between its horns, along with other very specific characteristics. Chosen by local priests, these bulls were revered throughout their lives. Upon death, they were mummified and interred in elaborate underground galleries. The headless pyramid, as it was initially dubbed, seemingly vanished around the 1800s. A German archaeologist stumbled upon it in the village of Sakura, but over time, the desert reclaimed it. Sporadic excavations in the 19th and 20th centuries yielded limited results. That's why the recent unearthing of the pyramid's base, after removing a 25-foot mound of sand, sent waves of excitement through the archaeological community. And the discoveries keep coming. American archaeologists are currently excavating a vast cemetery in Egypt, potentially containing over 1 million mummified bodies. Thus far, they've unearthed approximately 1,700 mummies. Unlike the royal mummies of pharaohs and kings, these are the remains of commoners who lived around 500 years ago, during the Roman and Byzantine rule of Egypt. The cemetery is known as the Way of the Water Buffalo. But the ancient Egyptians didn't just mummify bulls and buffaloes. Baboons, too, held a special place in their hearts. In the early 20th century, archaeologists discovered a site brimming with mummified baboons in, aptly named, the Valley of the Monkeys. Mummification was reserved for creatures of importance, those linked to specific deities. Jackals were associated with Anubis, the god of the afterlife. Cats were linked to Bastet, the feline goddess. Baboons were particularly significant, believed to be connected to Thoth, the deity of wisdom, and advisor to Ra, one of Egypt's supreme gods. However, the archaeologists who studied these baboon mummies were troubled. Evidence suggested that these animals were kept indoors, deprived of sunlight, resulting in severe vitamin D deficiencies and poor nutrition. Perhaps Thoth himself was displeased with these baboon keepers. And because there is never a dull moment in Egyptology, archaeologists have also unearthed human mummies with golden tongues. The ancient Egyptians, with their unwavering belief in the afterlife, thought that these golden tongues might aid the deceased in speaking in the afterlife. It was worth a try, right? These mummies were often placed in wooden coffins, accompanied by grave goods such as necklaces, pottery, golden artifacts shaped like lotus flowers, and scarab beetles. No iPhones, though. Recently, a new temple was also unearthed in Egypt. Scientists believe it was dedicated to Zeus Cassios, a deity blending Zeus, the Greek god of the sky, with Mount Cassios. While excavating in the Sinai Peninsula, archaeologists spotted 2 pink granite columns jutting out of the sand. These columns are believed to have formed the temple's front gate, collapsing during an earthquake centuries ago. Speaking of deities, not all were somber and serious. Scientists discovered a golden ring in a city south of Cairo. It wasn't a magical ring, but a normal gold ring depicting Bes, the deity of fun. Bes is often described in ancient texts as a happy, chubby dwarf. Today, many tattoos are purely aesthetic. In ancient Egypt, however, women often got tattoos as a form of protection during childbirth. At least, that's the prevailing theory. In the Nile region, scientists have found mummies with remarkably well-preserved tattoos, a rare find given how easily skin deteriorates. 2 of these women had tattoos on their lower backs. Even though these artworks were simplistic, they primarily featured images, notably the familiar chubby dwarf, Bes. Intriguingly, Bes also served as a protector of women during childbirth. Now, would you believe the ancient Egyptians invented robots? Well, not exactly. While they excelled as astronomers, mathematicians, and engineers, they also conceived an unusual invention, an automated deity. This wooden statue, dubbed Haor by some scientists, resided in the Metropolitan Museum of Art for years unnoticed. However, an X-ray specialist uncovered a hidden mechanical system within. A pulley-like axis extends from the statue's shoulder to its left leg. When rotated, this system causes the statue to raise and lower its hand. Imagine it almost pleading, "Pick me, pick me." Most people associate pyramids with grand tombs for pharaohs, designed to ensure a seamless journey to the afterlife. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, was built for Pharaoh Khufu. But the pyramid building trend actually began with the Step Pyramid of Djoser, constructed roughly 4,700 years ago. This colossal structure was erected for Pharaoh Djoser, a ruler from Egypt's third dynasty. Rising in 7 layers, it towers approximately 200 feet above the desert landscape. While we view it as an incredible architectural achievement, for the ancient Egyptians, the Step Pyramid of Djoser was more of a grand experiment, a trial run to refine their building techniques before embarking on even more ambitious pyramid projects. Reaching such heights was no doubt exhilarating, but the real enigma lies beneath the surface, within the pyramid's subterranean labyrinth. A network of tunnels, stretching approximately 3.5 miles, weaves its way beneath the structure. Some researchers even proposed that these tunnels were part of an elaborate water system, potentially revolutionizing our understanding of pyramid construction. Let's delve into the massive complex located in Saqqara. Surrounding the pyramid is what's known as a dry moat, a continuous trench reaching up to 164 feet in width and nearly 2 miles in length. This moat forms a rectangular enclosure around the pyramid. Its average depth plunges to about 65 feet. If you were to calculate the volume of earth and rock excavated to create this moat, it would exceed the volume of the Step Pyramid itself by a factor of 10. For a long time, it was assumed this trench was simply a vast quarry, the source of stone and clay used to build the Step Pyramid. This seemed logical. However, closer inspection reveals inconsistencies. The trench's narrow and deep design makes it impractical for quarrying, and its layout doesn't align with known ancient Egyptian quarrying methods. Moreover, certain sections of the trench are covered by a rocky ceiling, rendering them virtually unusable as a quarry. Another theory posits that the dry moat held spiritual significance, perhaps serving as a sacred gathering place for the souls of nobles destined to serve the deceased king in the afterlife. Niches in the walls hint at this spiritual function. However, most researchers believe this purpose likely emerged much later, long after the complex was originally constructed for Djoser. So, what was its original intended purpose? In 2020, a researcher proposed an intriguing idea. The trench might have been designed to collect and manage water, especially after torrential rainfalls. This theory gains credibility when considering the moat's location, situated in an area susceptible to flooding from runoff water from nearby plateaus. This could also explain why the trench wasn't used for new graves until a much later period, when the climate became drier and less prone to flooding. The story becomes even more captivating as this trench appears to be integrated into a larger, more intricate hydraulic system within the Djoser complex. The trench is divided into several compartments, meticulously carved from the rock and connected by tunnels. These compartments likely functioned as part of a water treatment system, where water flowed sequentially, becoming progressively cleaner. Now, here's where things connect to the pyramid itself. The Djoser complex features a series of underground shafts, and some researchers speculate that water from the moat's deep trench may have powered a hydraulic lift system. Imagine this giant water-powered elevator being used to raise the massive stones required to construct the pyramid. It would have functioned like a volcano, but instead of lava, water performed the heavy lifting. Picture a vast, deep hole at the center of the pyramid site.